Imagine a society where every person can pursue their dreams, but also where communities thrive. How do we ensure both? The answer often lies in how we understand rights, particularly their distinct forms and the different ways they function. At its core, the distinction between individual and collective rights centers on who holds the right and whose interests it primarily serves. Individual rights are held by persons in their private capacity, safeguarding their autonomy and freedom. Collective rights, on the other hand, are attributed to groups of people, ensuring their shared identity, culture, or well-being. The philosophical basis for this separation is profound. Individual rights, deeply rooted in classical liberal thought, prioritize the self-sovereignty of each person. Think of fundamental entitlements like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, or the right to property. These rights protect individuals from interference, whether from the state or from other individuals, allowing them to make choices about their own lives. They are often seen as inherent and universal, focusing on the individual as the primary unit of moral concern. Collective rights, however, arise from the recognition that certain groups, such as indigenous peoples, linguistic minorities, or national communities, have distinct interests and needs that requiring protection to preserve their existence and flourishing. These rights acknowledge that the welfare of the group itself is a moral consideration, distinct from the sum of its individual members. Understanding this distinction helps us interpret policy debates. For example, laws protecting individual privacy allow each person to control their personal information. In contrast, collective rights might manifest in policies that protect an indigenous community's traditional lands or cultural practices, even if some individuals within that group might prefer to assimilate. These two types of rights are not always in opposition, but they do requiring careful balancing to create a just and equitable society. An insider detail here is that the tension between these rights is a perennial challenge in liberal democratic theory. Some liberal traditions, often called communitarian, emphasize the importance of collective identity and group flourishing, arguing that true individual liberty can only be realized within a thriving community. Other traditions, such as libertarianism, might prioritize individual rights almost exclusively, viewing collective rights with skepticism as potentially infringing on personal freedoms. This spectrum illustrates the ongoing philosophical dialogue within liberalism itself. Navigating the complex interplay between individual and collective rights is essential for anyone seeking to deeply understand liberal thought and its application. It clarifies how diverse societies can strive to protect both personal liberty and communal flourishing, making these sometimes competing claims a cornerstone of robust political discussion and policy design.